Good day, friends. Welcome to another Word of Gord. Today we're going to be relentlessly pushing my new book, You Are History. The Soul, the Higher Self, and Our Share of Divinity. That's quite a mouthful, I know. It is the third part of my Eternal Life trilogy, following on from part 1, Eternal Life and How to Enjoy It, part 2, More Adventures in Eternity. It's shorter than the other two. I don't know if that's significant or not, or if I've just managed to squeeze more thought and experience into a smaller space. But it is only 160 pages. So those of you who might have shied away from the biblical proportions of you More Adventures in Eternity might really enjoy this little fellow. It was composed over a few years. I got stuck in the middle and put it aside for a while. And then my friend and colleague Ian Lawton said, "No, Gordon, you have to finish this." In no uncertain terms, he bullied me until I did it. And so thank you for that, Ian. It was a smart move on your part. Here's a little section from chapter 2, Movies. I usually emerge from movies feeling that I have successfully escaped my life for a couple of hours and am ready to resume the role of Gordon upon the physical plane in this country called Canada during the first decade of the new millennium. If a production is expertly crafted and lovingly brought to life by technicians and actors, then my escape velocity is certainly tempered by an aesthetic rapture that coats my enthusiasm with an extra bliss. But the experience is primarily one of escape from personality into the bliss of non-being, where the desires and actions of humans are observed and absorbed by the manifest intelligence which loves to bathe in their reflections. Not bad, eh? Of course, I used to say that I was an incurable film buff who loved the magic of the medium almost more than the myth of life itself, for that is how one is easily understood in regular society. Almost everyone understands how movies can become an addictive pleasure, not to mention a blessed relief from the pressures of a busy daily schedule. But the deeper, more spiritual dimension of movie watching is shared only with other movie fans. How the great directors working with the creative teams manifest a miniature universe on celluloid is a miracle of no small stature, and film fans love to share their individual enthusiasms, rolling them into a collective ecstasy during the conversations where they carve their alternative realities. Tonight, this October the 28th, I suddenly realized that this experience, this blissful escape from personality, is the model upon which I have calibrated my journeys into spirit. For each of those journeys was an escape from Gordon, his striving personality, his suffering ego. While thus journeying, the experiencing I, the indwelling soul, now finally distinct from the crusading and isolated ego, knows that this earthbound character is little more than a bundle of attributes and tendencies, fired by fear and desire, especially concocted for the timely resolution of various karmic projects by that transcendent intelligence I now know as higher self or monad. Yes, higher self, monad. Here's a little bit from monad, my higher self. My higher self, not really my, the one I belong to. The one I was. Well, we seem to be slipping by time here. There was a gap there, and I apologize. It was not my fault. A bit from the monad? I, like almost any monad, can tell you of how I am currently struggling with the overweening pride of this soul, the slothfulness of that soul, and the wildly neurotic tendencies of a third, not to mention the paralyzing fears, overwhelming lusts, and controlling thirsts of many others. Throw in a fair measure of timidity, conformity, and life-limiting choices, and you have got a fair grab bag of our daily diversions. Not that we experience days, but you know what I mean. And every monad has a number of soul probes caught in the physical astral incarnation cycle controlled by tribes and religions. Those plague victims dead in babyhood, those children fighting and dying in ethnic wars, those repeatedly resorting to the daily dependence of opiates and alcohol, those who repeat their religious or tribal belief system life after life, frustrated but safe in the bondage of their simple constructions. They all originate from us. Of course, we all have our high achievers as well, the philosophers, the scientists, the entrepreneurs and industrialists, the devoted homemakers who ensure the loving education of several striving souls. And as you can no doubt see, we need them all, the slowpokes, the high flyers, and every shade in between, to contribute to our expansion and eventual graduation. As well as my influence and meddling, all you soul probes influence each other. There are invisible lines of energy running amongst and between all of you. You are endlessly broadcasting the details of your experience to the others, who are in turn sending their information back to you. In most cases, this exchange is entirely subconscious, and your guess that its growth throughout the millennia has built what you moderns have come to see as the archetypes and behavior patterns of the racial unconscious. Soul probes in their various epochs, societies, and daily lives have slowly constructed the entire repertoire of actions, attitudes, and reactions, the behavioral gene pool, you might say, from which every incarnate human can and does draw. Well, that's potent, I'd say. How about one of the former personalities, of which there's, I think, 26 in this book? Lots to choose from. A druid from ancient Britain. I do not care whether I am identified by a number or not, as my attachment to that personality is diminished to an intellectual curiosity at best. I once was proud and expected the respect I automatically gave to others, but that has all melted into the bliss of being a leaf on a god tree, feeling the divine vibrations as not just rippling through my being, but making up the totality of my being. Non-stop ecstasy is my lifestyle of choice now. It is not something I care to draw apart from. When one sees that one's earthly efforts have not only reached complete fulfillment, but have come also to naught, one is freed from the attachment to achievement, whether on the level of the personal, cultural, political, or religious. One understands that these projects and efforts are not only worthy but endlessly ongoing, and that there are many souls moving up through the ranks, as it were, who will soon be ready to contribute to the various causes, and that you, the one who retires his former vigor in favor of some mysteriously beckoning future on a dimension as yet unexplored, not only has no more to gain, but nothing to lose. And that the game is convened for those who need to play. You no longer need. An Egyptian priest from the time of Akhenaten. Patiently devouring a tiny light in an enormous overpowering dark was their lesson. And the me of those centuries often hovered about their suffering selves, offering as much empathy and understanding as my developing angelic nature would allow. We, all of us, feel that given this background, the most successful expression of individual self-development was 12. Our Lady from Venice, who, with two of her related expressions, developed the sensual mothering intelligence which had been glimpsed but not fully appreciated by 14 and 15 in their days, and coupling it with a bemused disregard for the pretensions of authority, both spiritual and temporal, and fashioned the template for those oh so modern iconoclastic spiritualities which so informs Gordon's current expression. We are all very interested to see how Gordon implements the various strands of life energy he has inherited from our expressions in time. Most of us have been here, resting in the apparent non-action of the higher self, for long enough to develop a sophisticated understanding of how the frustration of soul probes and their objectives rise above any sense of temporary defeat and contributes to the subtle diversity of the whole. The creation of a miniature universe employs all the frustrations of desire and ambition, as well as their seeming fulfillment, for the encyclopedia of incarnate experience. Every last smidgen of suffering, joy, laughter, sadness, cunning, bravery, anxiety, you name it, is useful in our endeavor. A little bit on psychology and archetypes. This is from a chapter called Individuals, Archetypes, and Fantasies. It has not escaped Gordon's attention that all these characters in his cast can be seen as archetypes as well as incarnations. As contributions to his psyche, they could function just as well. The contemplative monk, the secretly pagan priest, the heretical philosopher, the courtesan, the grieving widow, the anxious young mother, the rich and carefree playgirl, the vain bisexual playboy, the ruthless warrior, the passionate freedom fighter, the scholar king, the orphaned peasant girl. Each is an archetype of behavior, a psychological case study which any class or course could be built around. Here he is seeing psychology as a limited form of incarnational studies, illuminating some of the mysteries of the psyche, but not the complex interactions through time and space which produce the infinite subtleties and shades of grey comprising the big picture. That's one of at least 4 dimensions. The fourth being time, that enigmatic trickster which allows the costume dramas to appear distinct and unique. Nor has it escaped his attention that many could see these individuals as fantasies based on what Gordon lacks and or his frustrated ambition. The tempting glamour of fame and notoriety in a past life is well known in the New Age community. Never mind that seemingly endless collection of the closed minds we call skeptics. Knowing that even the most evidential of past lives recalled cases are criticized and debunked, Gordon cares not to enter that fray. He knows that each incarnate soul must traverse its length and breadth of its brain-induced doubts to arrive at its own inner knowing. And thus he prefers to illustrate rather than attempt to convince, if indeed it is he who is doing the illustration. While he sees incarnations full of twists and turns and knows that readers will thusly tune in, he is not threatened that others may see interesting archetypes worthy of study, and yet others may see fantasies fit only for a comic book or a Hollywood movie. He understands that there are many ways to the illumination that some may call truth, the truth. He is comfortable with his. Well, friends, a little selection of intriguing tidbits from You Are History, the newest and third of the Eternal Life trilogy, published by White Crow Books and my sympathetic and understanding editor, John Beecher. Thank you for them, for him, them, and whoever they may be, for taking up the what shall we say, the threads of Gordon's illustrious writing career. And to you all, friends, goodbye, good luck, and you can get the book anywhere. Print, ebook, iTunes, the whole 9 yards. Just have a look. It's all over.